He's back, everybody. Sylvester Stallone makes his 11th appearance on this series. I don't know how it keeps happening. I just keep finding his films so eminently watchable in a so bad it's good way. And today we're going to be looking at one of the lesser seen drama movies he did between all the action star vehicles he was doing across the 1980s.
Ho, 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 ho. Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back, and today we're going to be looking at Lock Up, the 1989 prison drama movie starring Sylvester Stallone and directed by John Flynn, the man behind Rolling Thunder, which is one of Quentin Tarantino's favourite movies, Out for Justice, which is one of the few Steven Seagal movies that doesn't completely suck, and the cult classic horror movie Brain Scan, which has some pretty good moments and a very dope soundtrack, even if the final product isn't the greatest. I watched Lock Up for the first time as a teenager back in high school, just when I was beginning to discover my love of movies, and probably when I was at the peak of my obsession with Sylvester Stallone. And even though I enjoyed it back then, I still found something so wildly uneven about this movie. And if you actually look into director John Flynn talking about this movie, he gives it away very clearly. He says that this movie was a lesson on how studio films get made because they had a concept for this movie. Man escapes prison. They had a star who had a very short window of time before he was moving on to his next project in Sylvester Stallone. And they had a script that was in terrible need of a rewrite. So it was passed on to Jeb Stewart, the writer behind Die Hard, and it was hastily rewritten while they found a prison to shoot the movie in. And by the time Lock Up had actually entered production, pieces of the script were still getting delivered to the set on the day. The director and cast and crew would set up and they would wait to shoot a scene, but they couldn't because they didn't actually have the scripts telling them what scenes they would end up shooting on the day. And if you watch this movie, you can tell that they've only just had the material handed to them because it never feels like a complete script was put in place, looked over and said, yeah, that all makes sense. The final product of Lock Up is such a weird, messy movie, which is also just a fascinating display of cinematic ineptitude. Anyway, Stallone has spent a large amount of time in his film career escaping from different prisons. For example, just look at First Blood, Rambo 2, Judge Dredd, Escape to Victory, Escape Plan, and Tango and Cash, which actually came out the exact same year as Lock Up. This movie was him attempting to go back to his roots and star in a much smaller scale drama, something he wanted to do in an effort to work with John Flynn, who became recommended to him by James Woods. And he later ended up going on record as saying that Lock Up was not a film that was produced and performed with enough maturity to really make a significant impact on the audience or my career. And that's the truth. Is he right, or is it underappreciated? Let's lock up and see. Lock Up opens with a camera panning across a dusty collection of photos of Stallone and a very cheesy piano tune, which sounds fairy tale-esque. Yeah, this doesn't sound like the soundtrack you would expect from a Sylvester Stallone prison movie. This music was all over the DVD menu as well, and when I put it in to press play, I couldn't get it working on the Xbox for some reason, so this music was just blaring at me for long periods of time in the dark. They got Bill Conti to do the music for this film, the composer from all the original Rocky movies except 4, as well as the Stallone movies Paradise Alley and Escape to Victory. In Lock Up, Sylvester Stallone portrays Frank Leone, a man who you would think is in the middle of a romantic drama based on the film's opening scene where he cheerfully plays football with the neighborhood kids while his girlfriend watches.
Missing you already.
Pretty soon you're gonna get so sick of seeing me around here, you're gonna pray to have some time on your own. You know that? Do you?
I don't believe
Oh,
you.
yeah, I believe it.
That's gay. You're gay.
Leone is a model prisoner nearing the end of his sentence in a low-security prison when completely out of the blue, with no setup, he gets yanked from the facility.
On your feet, Leone. You're being transferred. Transferred where?
Stallone getting fucked over in a prison transfer is something I'm no stranger to. I have seen Tango and Cash so many times, including 2 days ago by circumstance.
I don't know where the hell we are. Shut up. You got the wrong man.
No, they addressed you by name. They shouldn't be doing this, but they don't have the wrong guy.
There's no mistake. Welcome to Gateway, Leone.
Drumgool? That's Warden's Drumgool, convict.
Captain,
Move him. Convict. Two things. One, I am Meisner. 2, never fuck with Meisner. Inside.
The way he phrased that sentence almost makes it sound like you can't fuck with him inside, but when you're outside, oh, all bets are off. Immediately, the tone of the film switches from fairy tale love story to tough as nails prison drama.
Oh yeah, you better not eyeball me, boy. So how were your accommodations last night? Just like your mama used to do you?
Oh, fuck off, you fat wanker.
Warden Drumgool, whose first name we never learn, has a beef with Leone because he escaped from Drumgool's previous prison when the warden wouldn't let him out to visit his dying father, and Drumgool's unspecified abuse of power ended up making it into the media.
I had 2 weeks to go before I was released. And all I asked for is 1 hour. 1 hour to visit with that old man before he died. Do you remember that?
I was doing my job.
There's a lot of ways to do your job. I mean, you could have given me an escorted lead. You could have had armed guards. You could have done that for me.
You broke the law.
I never broke the law. I am the law.
You check his nose?
Check it.
Good.
Dry up, Tubbo.
Watch out for the birds. What the hell you doing?
Sorry.
That was Jersey as hell, but also...
Watch out for the birds.
Okay, that is just some terrible dubbing. Leone meets a fellow prisoner named Dallas, portrayed by a very young Tom Sizemore in his debut feature.
DTA.
DTA, okay. What's that, man?
Don't trust anybody. Words are survived by it.
When you decide to make your break, okay? And I know you will. You come talk to me, all right? You come talk to Dallas, okay? Anything you want, anything you need, man, I can get it. Anything.
Maybe some tonal consistency for the movie, can you get that? Despite Leone's persistent efforts to brush Dallas off, in the next scene the two are immediately in a prison garage where Dallas keeps trying to push him onto another mechanic named Eclipse.
Stay away from it, okay? Okay?
It's just been a long time since I've seen an old 265 small block.
Well, look good then, because that's the last time you're going to see one in this shop.
Hey, come on, man. Frank, we can work this out, man. We're all gentlemen here.
Work what out? Leone says he doesn't trust anyone. Eclipse says he doesn't want to be involved in any of Leone's business. Why don't you just shut up, Sizemore?
Thanks a lot. You made me look beautiful, man. I appreciate the endorsement. Hey, Frank, hold up, man. Hold up. You didn't want this job anyway, man. Grease under your fingernails, oil on your clothes, you know? Don't worry, man. You're in good hands. I'm gonna take care of you.
The script just keeps calling for Tom Sizemore to keep saying things. It doesn't matter what he's saying. It's never really relevant to anything. They just want him to keep saying it. And he does it well, but what the hell is the point?
Listen, man, I meant what I said, okay? I'm gonna get you something good. Something easy, something cool. You're gonna love it, man. All right, Dallas, shut up and get inside. So shut up and get inside.
Yes, please, shut up. Or at least say something relevant if you're going to keep talking.
And I want to know what the hell is going on.
Look, miss, all I know is that he's in the general population with 2,000
I don't give a damn about the general population.
Okay, that line right there can be extracted and used as such a meme.
I don't give a damn about the general population. I don't give a damn about the general population. I don't give a damn about the general population.
Leone's all right.
He was a model prisoner at Norwood. Why did you bring him here?
Why? Because fuck them, that's why.
Hey, Frank! Hey, man. Woo!
Oh god, he's back again.
It's hot in here, man. Yeah?
Try it.
I'm not into this hard labor, man.
It's cool. It's easy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm burnt out. Come on, man. Come on, you're gonna love this.
What the hell was the point of that whole moment? That whole scene right there? It seems like it was just to show off another room in the prison. Which would make sense, because like I said, they would set up in different rooms while shooting this movie before they had the script delivered to them. Maybe they just never got a script delivered to them for this scene and were like, oh, fuck, let's just shoot something. Everyone, just say words.
The tunnels under every cell block, okay, right here. They lead to the steam plant, okay? I wait for my time. I'm on a truck that's leaving. I'm dearly departing Dallas, man. Huh?
Every interaction between these two characters has been Tom Sizemore rambling and Sylvester Stallone placidly brushing him off. This is not an interesting relationship, and Dallas has never even given much of a character background, so why we should even care about him as an individual versus why we should care about his relationship with Leone when Leone doesn't even want one, and he's the only one talking in the relationship, all does not make sense to me. But it doesn't develop anywhere further in the film, and yet Dallas just keeps talking.
You tried. They're gonna change your name from Departing Dallas to Deep Fried Dallas.
Oh look, he actually has nothing to say. What a nice welcome change. Then we're in the lunchroom, pawning off lines of cliche and meaningless dialogue that don't advance the story and seem to be there just to pad things out. Lockup's script oscillates between meaningless chatter and artificial prison cliches. Leone meets a young prisoner calling himself Killer, who they call First Base. Then one rando stabs another random with a shank. They stand up, this goes nowhere, and then Leone gets challenged to play in a prison football match against sadistic criminal Chink. And the film goes all longest yard on everything, which is ironic of course because the longest yard had quintessentially the exact same story as the Stallone film Escape to Victory, which also had Stallone in a prison and Bill Conti doing the music. So we're really treading on old ground with this scene, even though it is cool to watch.
You're dead, Leone!
We're also watching Stallone try to be inspiring in the world of sport while Bill Conti does the soundtrack, which by this point in history had already been covered by Escape to Victory as well as the first 3 Rocky films and Paradise Alley. At this point, we're just relying on Stallone's pre-established cinematic legacy rather than trying anything original. Sure, it's technically proficient and nice to look at, but without originality or a valid reason why we the viewers should care about anyone in the game, who gives a shit? Eventually, Leone's spirit inspires Eclipse to join the game.
It's like you need the help, and I need the exercise. You're dead, Leone!
Will you stop saying that?
Don't lay down on me now.
Get up, you son of a bitch!
You're dead!
Is that the only thing he knows how to say?
Eventually, Leone leads his team to victory, inspiring and winning the respect of the fellow prisoners, particularly Eclipse.
Yo, punk. Yo, punk. Wake up! You still interested in the job?
Leone reveals to Eclipse that he was initially sent to prison for beating up a gang of men that assaulted his father, being sentenced to 18 months. 18 months in prison is also what Stallone's character got in Tango and Cash. The man got 2 18-month sentences the same year in 1989. Damn!
Eclipse, what do you got hiding back there?
That's my baby.
Good body work.
This turns into a montage of the boys working together to repair the automobile, and the sequence lasts just shy of 3 minutes. Stallone did a lot of montages in the 1980s, but this is one of the less inspired ones. The whole scene is cheesy with its ham-fisted upliftingness, to the point that it might as well just use the Fixing the House montage song from Revenge of the Nerds. There's also elements of homoeroticism in this montage, such as these moments of borderline phallic symbolism.
That is awesome!
You know, I had this really nice girl.
Yeah?
She was nice, and we were in love.
Okay, this has got to be the worst written line of dialogue in the film so far.
So many things I ain't never done. I ain't never learned how to drive a car, Frank.
What?
I ain't never learned how to drive a car.
What a fucking loser. I'm gonna videotape this.
Leone then teaches his son to ride a bike, by which I mean he teaches the younger prisoner to drive a car. This is the level of sentimentality Lockup is reaching for. It's trying to push a father-son narrative in amongst everything else that it's half-baked committing itself to. They haven't even taken enough time to develop much of a dynamic between these two characters before they force the father-son element onto it. It's a recurring theme in Lockup. Plot points are just lazily teased at and then completely dropped in the film out of the blue without any of the thing called plot development that's meant to occupy the section between. And the DVD menu music also gets pretty loud here, never missing a chance to be intrusive upon the narrative.
Come on, Ferris. Work here with me, okay? You want to stay here? Or you want to go down to Broadway and check out the action?
I want to check out the action, of course.
Oh, shit.
All right.
Then turn left at 42nd Street.
Okay, I got it.
The place is jumping.
First Base begs Leone to let him start the car just to feel the engine rev once, which he allows, but instead of turning it off, he decides to go ham.
He's bound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done?
After a free ride in the prison yard, Leone eventually convinces him to stop the car, and Warden Drumgoole decides to become relevant to the story again. He just disappeared from the movie for almost entirely the first hour, aside from a few shots of him just watching prisoners from his post. Seriously, that's about a third of the movie where the character's just completely irrelevant.
Let him go! You're the wrong man. Take Leone to the hole. Back off. 6 weeks.
Are we really meant to believe that not a single one of them is willing to actually say, no, we saw what happened and you guys are persecuting the wrong man? Like, I know Drumgool's meant to be such an elitist, towering figure over everybody, but if that's the case, then he probably shouldn't have disappeared from the film for about a third of its runtime. We probably should have got more establishment of him having power over everyone and making everyone sadistic. Drumgool has Chink and his men symbolically destroy the spirit of the prisoners, and Leone gets thrown in the hole.
Why is he in isolation?
I don't have that information.
Oh, you don't have that information. And I want to see the goddamn warden.
Oh yeah, speaking of characters that you thought were going to be relevant to the story but actually just end up disappearing from the majority of the film, yeah, if you thought the romantic lead was actually going to have much to do in the story...
Not today.
Leone is subject to torture by the guards, being blasted with lights and randomly beaten until the black cops decide that this is too much.
Does the warden hate him enough to kill him? Because that ain't my job.
Pussy. And you get the hell out of my sight before I shine my boots with your face, you fat piece of shit. Go on!
This line's pretty funny, but if you grew up watching John Amos portray the loving, wholesome father James Evans on the first 3 seasons of Good Times, then it just makes it way funnier by comparison. Leone returns to general population, finding the other spirits broken.
We poured everything we got into this car. No way we could let Chink slide.
Let it go, first base.
Let it go? Aren't you the guy who says you gotta protect what's yours? Watch each other's back, you watch mine, I watch yours?
I'm pretty sure that was his code of honor in Vietnam.
In the field, we had a code of honor. You watch my back, I watch yours. Back here, there's nothing.
I guess that was nothing but a bunch of jive, huh, Frank? Now that you're a short-timer.
To suggest that Leone doesn't have your back when he just spent 6 weeks getting tortured in the hole because you decided to go against his request to not drive that vehicle through the prison yard like a madman, just go fuck yourself, first base.
It's his! This lift is his, this pool's his, the garage is his, this whole goddamn place is his! And you better remember that too, because once you start buying into this our car, our thing concept, man, you're his too!
I can't help but notice that the letter S really stands out when Stallone is monologuing in this scene.
Just let it go.
Let it go.
It seems like the writers on this movie genuinely ran out of ideas and just started picking elements from a lot of Stallone's other work. Lines of dialogue, themes, plot points. This is a weird amalgamation of a lot of things into one small prison movie. Despite his inspirational spirit being broken and Chink continuing to harass him, the other boys nevertheless continue to support him, and it's revealed that the warden has been working with Chink to try and push Leone to act up. With Leone refusing to budge, Chink and his men instead go after Jersey Boy and drop the weights on him.
I told you we'd play later, you little bitch.
This pushes Leone into going after Chink, starting a fight with him in the prison yard, leading to a brawl with some notably bad dubbing.
Well, are you gonna talk about it or are you gonna do it?
Do it.
At the last moment, Leone relents shortly before getting shanked. During his recovery, Drumgool reinstates Leone's privileges and allows his girlfriend to visit. So we get a shot of the 2 characters that the film just completely forgot existed here. The 2 make out for a few seconds before the guards bust in.
What the hell's the matter with you?
You heard. Time's up.
The warden said half an hour.
Yeah, well, the warden changed his mind.
Later that night, a mysterious freewheeler approaches Leone and tells him how he'll be getting out soon.
I got a job lined up when I get out. It's just temporary, you know, but it pays about $1,000 for 2 hours work.
What do you gotta do?
I just gotta rape this bitch. I get an extra 100 every time she screams.
I'll kill you with that! I'll kill you!
Payback time, Frank.
Was the wheelchair really necessary there? If we had seen him rolling around for the rest of the film in a wheelchair and he just stood up now, then it would be more shocking. But we literally just met the guy. With no time to waste, Leone asks for Dallas's help busting out of jail in the underground tunnels.
No, what? It's this way, man. It's a shortcut to the steam plant.
It's this way.
No, man, I remember the map. It's this way. I'm positive, man. I'm positive. Let's go!
Dallas ends up leading Leone right into a trap with the guards, waiting for both of them.
You had me set up?
I got 30 years to go, man. 30 years. Warden made me a deal.
We don't make deals with escaping prisoners.
What the hell are you talking about, man? You said if I delivered...
Shut up.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
You're going back to the population.
You can't do this to me, man. I snitched them off. They're gonna kill me back there. I'm finished.
Tough.
This deal is getting worse all the time.
This is an automatic 10 years, Frank. It's 10 years for a second escape attempt. You better believe that you're going to be doing hard time here for the rest of your life.
Well, that sucks.
You don't have to worry about that psycho hurting that pretty little blonde bitch girlfriend of yours. We decided to keep him in here. Didn't we, officer?
What a twist.
After the guards attempt to torture Leone with steam, he snaps and the movie once again completely changes course into action thriller territory.
Rape this.
Someone scripted that line and had Sylvester Stallone actually say it.
School's out, punk.
Oh, come on, prison guard. You've never seen the inside of a school in your life. That's how you ended up an angry, embittered, uneducated prison guard who beats other people for fun. The scuffle goes on for a while until Dallas jams a power cable into the water, killing himself and the guard in the process. And this is where the film truly takes the form of a more typical Stallone starring vehicle as Leone ventures into action thriller territory. Lock Up has gone through so many different plot points and tonal shifts and different ambitions that by the point that it just devolves into being a typical Stallone action thriller, at least this is what the fans have come to expect from Stallone, so I can find myself amused with that. As a kid watching this movie, this was the moment where it really snapped my attention up. Although I will say that the musical score once again becomes very intrusive around here. That section right there honestly reminded me of the cave dungeon theme from Super Mario 64.
Jump! Deacon! Jump!
Now, why the hell would a man who's got less than 3 weeks to go try to break out and kill 2 men? Why?
I don't know, but it's a bloody good question.
Whilst the guards search the perimeter for an escaped convict, Leone surprises Drumgoole by taking him hostage and strapping him to an electric chair, which, despite not having been used since it was rebuilt, is surprisingly easy for Leone to access and power up. He tapes his hand to the kill switch just as the guards burst in.
Set me up. You set everything up!
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about Chick Weber! The goons! The cop that was gonna rape Melissa. Dallas. The killing of the kid. Guilty on all counts.
Please, Frank. Don't kill me. It's true.
Donald Sutherland gives a predominantly understated performance across this film, but he gets really weak and emotionless at this exact scene, which really should be the most pivotal moment. We should see the character transition from being all high and mighty into very vulnerable and human, but I'm really just not feeling it here.
I confess, Mr. Meisner, everything that he said was true.
Oh my God! Well, that is something and a half.
Leone reveals that he took one of the fuses out. The guards cuff Leone and release Drumgoole.
Take the warden into custody.
Yes, sir.
Lock Up's sentimental piano music returns as the ending glosses over the myriad of legal complications that would stem from everything that just happened.
I only wanted to do my time, Cap.
Get your chance. Move him.
So even though he was coaxed into it by a prison warden, he still attempted to escape from prison, which is a crime. He killed a guard in self-defense, but the legal system is arguably not going to favor him that way, especially not back in 1989. And on top of that, he also actually did take a warden hostage and create a disruption in which everyone believed he was preparing to murder the man. The legal system's not going to help him out there, but don't let that get in the way of the film giving you a happy ending.
You know what I'm gonna miss most about you, Captain?
What's that?
Your incredible smile.
All right, enough with the sentiments, all right? He liked you, big deal, all right? Just forget it. Give me a big fat headache. Everybody's just making me nuts.
The credits begin to roll over a super cheesy 80s love song performed by Jimmy Jameson, the frontman of Survivor from 1984 to 89, who sung on the soundtracks for both Rocky IV and The Karate Kid. The end. Is Lock Up a good film?
No way. No damn way.
Ever since a young age, I have been an absolute sucker for a good prison movie. 3 of my favorite movies to this day include Cool Hand Luke, The Great Escape, and The Shawshank Redemption, the last of which was actually predated in production history by Lock Up. All 3 of these movies told uplifting stories of the triumphs of human spirit against the oppressive conditions of corrupt prison life. And while they all proved brilliant in different ways, I would argue that The Shawshank Redemption did the best job of balancing heartwarming triumph with soul-crushing defeat. That film is an example of how to do it correctly, whereas Lock Up is a messy display of how to completely segment these ideas instead of combining them. The movie starts so cheery and uplifting that it could make you sick before flashing glimpses of darkness at the viewer as Frank Leone gets forcefully transferred to a much darker facility. It proceeds to spend most of the next hour continuing to be ridiculously lighthearted without ever finding a narrative sufficient to justify it before detouring into psychological thriller for the next 5 minutes. It finds a middle ground in the next 20 minutes as it finally finds some degree of focus on Frank Leone just trying to survive the remainder of his sentence with a more consistent tone before detouring deep into Stallone movie genre gimmicks for the next 20 minutes. Which realistically is actually a big betrayal to the movie's central message. After trying to focus on being a triumph of the human spirit for most of the movie, Lock Up's final detour contradicts all that by saying, fuck it, let's escape custody and take the warden hostage. Threats of violence will resolve everything. The way Lock Up constantly shifts in tone and the focus of the narrative makes it feel very episodic, and it's rather fascinating to see what sudden shift the movie is going to take next. But this prevents the movie from having any kind of an organic flow, which constantly leaves the story as a scattered collection of ideas that it never fully commits to following through on. The trailer for Lock Up would lead you to believe that you're watching a dark and vindictive prison thriller, but it is actually a far cry from what the movie ultimately ends up delivering in terms of tone in the end. Also, this movie seems to constantly get described as an action movie, but realistically, there's very little action in it whatsoever. Lock Up is a film that genuinely cannot decide what it wants to do because it changes its mind and its narrative trajectory at random times. At different points in the movie, Lock Up is a love story, a sports movie, a father-son narrative, an action movie, a vindictive dark thriller about systematic corruption, and a pseudo-inspirational tale of the human spirit, which is the one it tries the hardest to be. It actively commits to none of these themes enough, dipping into each of them at various moments for varying periods of time before it takes the viewer in a completely different direction. It's as if the tone of this movie suffers from a major case of ADHD and is constantly getting distracted every time it feels a new emotion. It's like it feels one thing, then latches onto another emotion when it feels something different and forgets what it was feeling and doing in the last scene. And that would make sense considering the fact that pages of the script were literally being delivered to set on the day of filming, sometimes hours after they had set up, to the point where actors and crew had been messing around with the prisoners just to kill time for hours on end. Even disregarding the tone of the film, the story never really grasps its potential. With everyone who came together to make Lock Up, there is a lot of talent on board. And a gritty prison thriller starring Sylvester Stallone is something with a lot of potential, but the final product rings hollow because the film lacks a human touch, never doing much with its characters. Frank Leone is a likable hero who coasts by on Stallone's charm and masculine bravado, and the actor gives a thoroughly committed effort to every piece of the screenplay, but the backbone of the movie should be his relationship with the characters around him, and none of them ever prove meaningful. Lock Up begins by emphasizing the love story at the heart of the film, but Leone's girlfriend ends up appearing in only 5 very brief and arbitrary scenes, relegated to the background as a lazy plot device instead of as a character. Dallas gets a large amount of screen time, but never says or does anything to justify it, often just rambling in a manner that can come across as annoying. Tom Sizemore lends his charisma to the role, which elevates it, but he gets too much screen time for a character who adds so little. First Base has slightly more meaning in the scheme of things due to the father-son sentiment between him and Leone, but it comes across as artificial and half-baked. So when he gets killed off, it's hard to really feel anything, even with the assistance of Larry Romano's likable charm. And the film forgets about him pretty quickly after he's dead, with none of the other characters taking all that much time to mourn for him. And Captain Meisner is one of the most underutilized characters in the entire film. John Amos takes on the role and brings a commanding hard edge to the part, making him an intimidating figure of authority. Over the course of the film, you see Meisner's moral compass challenged more and more as he witnesses more of the systematic abuse Drumgoole has curated, but he isn't given enough scenes to do the character justice. The actor warrants more moments to signify the steady change the character undergoes as he becomes more disillusioned with Drumgoole's handling of the prisoners, but he doesn't get enough of them, making his changing motivations seem rather spontaneous in the course of the story. Amos is one of the highlights of the cast in Lock Up, and he deserves much better. And as for Chink Webber, he's hardly a character and more of just a plot point. But of all the characters in the film, no one has their time wasted more than Warden Drumgoole. Donald Sutherland is a legendary Hollywood icon with an extensive filmography of performances as heroes and villains. In Lockup, he brings his understated charisma to the role and portrays the character as a calm, sadistic authority figure, not unlike Louise Fletcher as Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But unfortunately, despite being the central villain, he only gets about 10 minutes and 16 seconds of screen time, and much of that is just shots of him watching the prisoners from a distance, contributing nothing to the story. Lockup doesn't build nearly enough hype around Drumgoole or delve into the relationship between him and Leone nearly enough, nor does the film work towards making him an omnipresent figure who works as a consistently looming threat. For long periods of time, Lockup just forgets about him entirely, whilst it distracts us with another long line of prison movie cliches. And when it brings him back for the detour into action thriller territory at the end, Sutherland comes off rather flat. You can put this down to the fact that Drumgoole really doesn't feel threatened by Leone at first, and to the possibility that he delivers a hollow confession all with the intention of seeming insincere and thus able to claim it was under duress in a court of law later. But even then, Sutherland doesn't breathe enough human cowardice into Drumgoole in the final moments. Maybe it's the lackluster script, or maybe it's because the film has failed to build enough of a character around him in the runtime leading up to this moment, but either way, Sutherland comes up rather short at the film's conclusion. Not enough to warrant the Golden Raspberry Award nomination Sutherland got, but then again, they also nominated Stallone purely out of spite for this film, and as always, the Golden Raspberry Awards can get fucked. And now, let's talk about the movie's soundtrack. I love Bill Conti as a composer. He is genuinely one of my all-time favorites, and I've listened to his 5 different Rocky soundtracks way more times than I can count. And the Masters of the Universe soundtrack. That film's a guilty pleasure of mine, and I'm a genuine sucker for its music. Unfortunately, Lockup is not the finest example of his work. The cheerily lighthearted theme for the movie is way too much of a contrast from the gritty intentions of the movie as a prison thriller, whilst during the escape scene, it is a bit too heavy at times. The music is composed well from an objective standpoint, but it way too often leans a bit too heavily into the film's more sickeningly sentimental angle, and it's edited into the film very loudly to the point that it often becomes intrusive. During some of the more intense scenes, the music blends into the background well and gives the film an edge, but there are other notable moments where it continues to come across as intrusive, emphasizing the awkward shifting tones and visions for the film. One Stallone film that's loved by a lot of his fans but that I've never really liked is the 1986 film Cobra, a movie which started as Beverly Hills Cop, was rewritten into a messy adaptation of the Paula Gosling novel Fair Game, and then edited into oblivion to reduce the violence, and ended up being put out there as a weird, high-budget canon movie. Now, Cobra I've never loved. I don't think it is a very sincere movie. It's very much a vanity project. Unlike that movie though, Lockup actually does have better intentions. Both movies are incredibly messy and in need of a refined script, as well as a more appropriate soundtrack. But Cobra aimed to be a solid action A movie and ended up an emotionless, overdone B movie, whilst Lockup had more noble intentions, to put Stallone in a prison and repurpose the underdog narrative he instilled in pop culture with Rocky. Lockup has big ambitions and wants to cover a lot of ground, and John Flynn's direction keeps the emotional core of the film intact with solid performances as well as great production values. The prison they filmed this movie in has a vast display of scenery, and they used actual prisoners and guards as extras in the movie, which helps to lend an authenticity to the ride. When I first watched Lockup as a kid, I found it to be a messy but entertaining movie. I thought that constantly changing tonal shifts was really weird, but then when it devolved into being a Stallone action vehicle at the end, it caught me off guard and naturally catered to me as a diehard Stallone fan. I actually read one review of this movie which called it not a bad prison movie until Stallone turned into a one-man army during a really ludicrous climax. My thoughts are really the opposite. When the action happens, that's when the film shows that it knows what it's doing. It's consistent, it's intense, and it's genuine Stallone. If you compare it to the 2013 Stallone movie Escape Plan, which was all about him trying to break out of a prison, you can see that when a film leans into the genre gimmicks of a Stallone movie more, it actually can tell a pretty entertaining story set inside a prison. Granted, that movie got a bit more boring during its more talkative scenes, but it was still better than Lockup. It was a solid 3 out of 5. Of course, it had the intentions to be something else. Lockup wanted to be a drama. It just didn't do a very good job of it. I don't necessarily think Lockup is a good movie, but after watching it 3 times, I can say that it's an entertaining movie. Despite the fact that this is a messy film, it is so ridiculous and eccentric that it really did hold my attention. I was fascinated by the mess I saw on screen, captivated and entertained by it. And I watched it on a night a few weeks ago when I was in desperate need of a distraction. I had a conversation coming the next day that I was not looking forward to and could not get it out of my mind. But when I put Lockup on screen, I was so fascinated by the weird movie being presented to me and the constant shifts in tone and story that I really couldn't look away. And as such, I was entertained, I was distracted, and I'm entertained enough to say that I'm happy to go back and rewatch this movie. So if a movie has rewatch value and it takes you away from the real world, then I would argue it's done its job. As a final note, it's worth saying that even though Lock Up didn't score the best points with critics and failed at the box office in a market that was competing with Batman, Lethal Weapon 2, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the movie still found an audience in Central Europe because it came out around the time that the last echoes of communist oppression had really fallen, and it inspired a lot of people. So if it inspired people and found an audience, then really, it did its job to a degree. Lock Up gets 4 prison sports matches out of 10. It ends up being a messy jumbling of ideas thanks to a lot of tonal shifts, changing plot points, and underdeveloped characters. But the director's ambition and the visual style of the movie is admirable, Stallone has plenty of charisma, and it's just the kind of messy movie that you really can't look away from. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If there are any movies you want to see me discuss on this show, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to see more episodes of this show, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, until next time, I've been your host, Jukebox Harry. Peace.